When I pulled this apart earlier in this video, we talked about pulling out this spacer and then these two gaskets here. While I'm in here, we're going to go ahead and do some more gaskets behind the carburetor because I've got a lot of gas leaking out of this hole, and what that tells me is there is a problem in here. So we're going to get the intake block out of there. There's a problem in here that there's a duckbill valve inside of a fitting, and so we're going to pull the handle off and go ahead and address that problem while we're here, because I'm not going to put this back together and then have to take it back apart later. So let's go ahead and get this apart now, and I'm just using a straight screwdriver to break these out. I think they are 5/16. I'm going to go ahead and take out my little fuel line grommet here. There we go. Got that pulled out. Next thing is we need to take off this compression fitting for the oil line. And then we've got one screw down here that needs to come out. Alright, got all that off. Now I need to get this line out. I got to go get a wrench. Got a 5/16 wrench. Oh, that was loose. Anyways, we'll pull this off. Lefty loosey on this. This is a this artery here is the one that feeds the bar pad for oil. Since this is a manual oil only, you pump this little oil pump, and then oil comes out of the bar pad and into your bar hole. That's on there kind of tight. Well, it's not tight, it's just you can't get it off by hand. So the reason I got to get this off is because this line is attached to the actual saw and this handle. Oh, we still got part of the recoil on here. We probably should get that out of there. Alright, now that we got the oil line loosened up and all the screws out, this handle should pop off, but we do have a ground wire for the kill switch. The stop switch needs to be removed, so there you go. Handle's off. Now's a good opportunity we can clean this up a little bit better. This has got pretty nasty in there. So this should be held on with like a rubber cement. There's our reed block. That looks in great shape. Actually, that one's flipped out just a little bit, and so is that one. All right, we might look into that, but we'll address that another day. It was running okay before. So here's this gasket here. Now this was cemented, should be cemented. You can see that on here. In fact, the IPL, the parts list, calls that out, that it should be cemented on there. So there's that. I've got a new one of those already. And then we've got inside of here, oh yeah, you can see all the gas just dumping out of there. So we're going to need to pull this little valve out of here and replace the duckbill valve that's inside of it. So let's get a wrench on that. Alright, got a 5/16 on a breaker here, and this is just a 6-point. I would stay away from the 12-point on this stuff. Good, it popped right out of there. That's awesome. Didn't even have to fight with it. It looks like we'll be able to just drive. Oh yeah, it's I don't know if you can see through there. It's completely gone. There's nothing in there at all. Probably a little bit of goo left in there or something like that. So I'm just going to set this off to the side right now while we work on this here. So it looks like what we'll need to do is just drive this out with a punch, and then that'll just push this right out of there. So let's go. This feels like aluminum. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot to it. I got it apart. I had to put this in a vise, which is somewhere else. And what I did was I had this in the vise like that, and then I had this punch. And this is a very small punch. Anyways, I put that down in there and just drove it right through, and this popped right out of the body. So that worked out. And this is some of the gunk. You can see that had some plaque build up in there. So we had to do some treatment to get that cleaned out, which included just scraping it out like that. So that's good. We got all that taken care of. So let's clean this out a little bit more. I've got this pick right here, and so what we're going to do is we're going to put a duckbill valve back inside of here. I think all that black rubber stuff was the duckbill valve. And what we're going to do is try to push this out of here, because that got kind of clogged up when I was cleaning things out. So let's see if we can get that. There's some of it. We might be able to pick it out now. There we go. Here's the duckbill valve I'm going to use. And I'm going to put a link to all this stuff down below. So make sure you check that out. So we're just going to put the duckbill valve in there just like that. Seat it in there with our punch. Got everything back together. I'm just going to use this block of wood to drive this. The camera might shake a little bit. Okay. We got that back together. That turned out nice. So we can go ahead and get this back in the body of the saw. Yeah, looks like that's working great. Alright, that's as tight as it was before, so I'm good to go with that. Got our new duckbill valve in there, and everything looks good. Let's go ahead and flip this upside down and see if we have any leaks like we did before. Well, that's great. No leaks here or anything like that. I'm going to take a little time to clean up this this junk that's in here, because now is a perfect time to go ahead and clean this out. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, I got this area cleaned up fairly well, and got all this cleaned up here, and we're going to go ahead and get this gasket in place here, because we're going to go ahead and get the handle reinstalled. So it looks like we're going to have to take this golf tee out of here so I can fish this fuel line through here and kind of get that back together. Remember, I was skipping putting that, what they called an adhesive on there. But here we go. We're going to go ahead and get this back together. We've got our screws here. We'll go ahead and get this one started. There we go. That kind of fell into place there. Perfect. All right, and I'll just leave those kind of halfway tightened right now. Go ahead and get this screw on back here, right back in here, and that was the longer of the four, and I think these are 12/24s, and it has this one had a dirty head, so we'll go ahead and get that installed in there. Let me go ahead and kind of leave that a little loose for now. Go ahead and get these tightened up. But you can see the new gasket fits in there perfect. And now that we have our new duckbill valve in there, we won't have any gas leaking down into the air filter box here anymore. Go ahead and reinstall this oil line here. And it feels like, there we go. I was going to say, it feels like that nut was kind of slid back needed to be slid forward so it was ready to go on. Looks like everything's threading on there nice now. Alright, that's tight. Go ahead and tighten up this last screw back here. Alright, get that in. Alright, it's starting to look kind of like it should now. Go ahead and put this ground wire back on the coil. Tuck that in there. That's ready to go. Alright. Okay. I guess we'll go ahead and get the gasket in place for the reed valve, and we'll go ahead and get the reed valve back installed. So it looks pretty good. Kind of clean off some of this dirt. This can only go in one way, which is nice. Just like that. There we go. Alright, and then here I've got a kind of a stack of what used to be in there. And that's this old gasket here, this intake block, another gasket, a spacer, another gasket. So I've got all the new gaskets here that match up to what we had. So we've got one here that's going to go on like that. Alright, and then it looks like the intake block went on next. We'll go ahead and tighten these down fairly well. Not going crazy with it. Alright, I'm good with that. So next up we had a gasket, spacer, and another gasket. So these gaskets look a little different, but this is what came in the kit, and I feel pretty certain these are going to work. So if you kind of have a question, you can line them up with the original ones and see that the holes line up perfectly. So I'm going to hold on to those just in case, but there's how this is all going to line up. So next up is going ahead and getting the carburetor that we just got done with, and kind of get this all stacked in here with the bolts, and then everything slides into place in one shot. So let's go ahead and do that. So the way I've been doing this is sliding the intake bolt through there, grabbing one of the gaskets, grabbing the spacer, and making sure the hole is toward the top because you're matching it up with that impulse line, and then the other gasket right on top of that. And that's how much engagement you have into the intake block right here. So the next one, slide everything in there, and then this is the tricky part, is getting this throttle to stay in there while you hold the bolts in place. I think I might have just gotten it. Okay, there we go. I got one bolt started. That's really good. So next up is you gotta pull this trigger back a little bit and then feed this one in and get it started. And sometimes if these gaskets fall a little bit, you'll have to pick them up with a pick like this so that the bolt slides in just like that. I don't know if you saw it kind of click into there. but we need to make sure that those are in the right place, and they are. So let's see if we can get this bolt started in there now. Okay, I think we got it. And this is a 5/16. Alright, just finishing tightening these up, and that's pretty good. So next up, we'll go ahead and get this choke lever installed. So what we'll do is, we've already got our grommet in there, so we'll just slide this in just like that, and then kind of maneuver it around. So that'll go right in there, just like that. And then I've got this pin here. At least this is what this one had. Yours might have something different or not have one at all. But there you go. So now our choke works. Throttle works perfect. All of our gaskets are in place. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put the recoil back on here. One thing I forgot was to go ahead and get our fuel line grommet back on this fuel line and reinstalled into our air box there. So go ahead and get this fuel line put back on the carburetor. All right, that's back in there, and now we got to push this, and that'll keep dirt out but allow the fuel line to work. One last thing is putting this bracket on here for the air filter cover to go on. I went ahead and got everything back together. Here's the got the recoil on there and got the air cleaner on there, so that's good. Got a little bit of gas in here, so we're going to go ahead and try to start this thing up. Alright, here we go. We got turn the switch on, and I haven't tried to start this up yet, so it might take a few pulls to get the gas into the carburetor. But yeah, so we have our trigger lock here. We went ahead and did that, pulled our choke out, got that going, and here we go. Let's take a try. Just going to see if there's gas coming up through this fuel line to the carburetor. Should be pulling a little fuel in there. Yeah, there's some in there. Let's keep pulling on it. There we go. Finally got it. I'm gonna push the choke off, leave the high idle on. Okay, well, that's a good start. Alright, well, after a little bit of tuning, I went ahead and put together, all the things. Went ahead and put the side cover on here, and put the bar and chain on. And so let's go outside and give this thing a shot. But first, let's fire this thing up in the shop here real quick, just to kind of hear it running. Yeah, so here we go. So there you go. You can kind of see, Kevin is up and running. And so yeah, we're going to go find a piece of wood out there. This chain isn't the sharpest. It's just kind of what I had available here. And the old one that was on here was actually, I need to show you guys this actually. So this chain on this side over here, the one with the smaller tooth, was the original chain that came on there, and I could not get that thing to cut at all. I think it's some kind of like narrow kerf semi chisel, because you can see this is a full chisel, normal, we'll call it, chain there. So I went ahead and abandoned kind of this. I'm going to hold on to it. I mean, it still halfway works, but it really doesn't do that well. It did get cleaned up, you know, all the rust is gone, so that Croyle did a great job getting all that together. All right, we got Kevin here all put back together, and let's go ahead and get him started up. I just had it running, so no choke or anything, just getting it started. Here's some of the chips that chain is pulling, and again, this is rock hard maple that's been sitting there for a long time. There's a couple nice long pieces in there, so I'm happy with that. But I'm going to touch it up before we do any major cutting. All right, well, Kevin sounds like he is running great. Super happy with this build. Sounds like the ignition was breaking up a little bit, so we might be digging into the points on this one day. But I'm good to go with that. Yeah, super happy with this. I'm going to be using it actually. You know, I got some trees to break up, and why not? I mean, it's back together and running and sounding great. So, all right, guys. Well, until next time, that's just what the doctor ordered.